News on World News. Brought to you by The Wellness Company. Prepare for the unexpected. And Refuge Medical. And now, it's time for the show.
So it looks like we're recording here. This is the first in who knows how many that we're going to have a conversa-view. That's a combination of conversing and an interview with the great incomparable Elsa Kurt, the blonde Kamala Harris here. And we should both be on the screen here, but I'll tell you what, I'll act like I'm interviewing you, and then we'll start that way, and then you can jump in. But we have to agree to something. Are you ready for that?
I'm ready.
All right. If one of us starts to monologue, the other one stops them. How about that's our rule?
That's a fair rule. That's a good rule. I like it. We do like to hear ourselves talk when we do these things. I don't know if that's necessarily true. It's just that's what we're used to doing, right?
Yeah. So this is the brave new world here. We're jumping in and we're trying to figure it out. Eventually, we're going to end up she'll be on my show, God's News in the News. I'll be on the Elsa Kurt show you'll have to change the little bug there to, I'm not Clay Novak. I could never be Clay Novak. So
I'll have to change that on there. Yeah.
I'm forcing you to change. I'm a force for change here. What does that go? Yeah. So anyway, so the conversa view begins. And so we've agreed to not monologue. So we got that out of the way. And as far as that goes, everything's on the topic. I sent you an email and you gave me some ground. You said we talk about, I think it said, we can talk about faith, politics, society, or respective platforms.
Yeah. I narrowed it down to this very tiny scope of things, right? There was not narrow at all. It was very broad. Yeah, I'm pretty easygoing. I'm like, whatever you want to talk about. I figure if I don't have an answer for something, I'm just going to say I don't have an answer for something, or I don't know.
Or you can act like somebody who never knows what they're doing. Who could that possibly be?
Who could that be?
So I don't know.
I like that idea. I could do that. I could just, if I don't know the answer to something or I don't know how to answer, I'm just going to slip right into the Kamala and say words that make no sense.
Do you know what the danger of that is? If you do it so well, you may become her.
Well, I tell you what, it's really scary because people will say to me, I will laugh, like my regular laugh, and they'll go, you laugh like Kamala. I'm like, no, I don't. Stop. Don't say such terrible things.
Yes, you do.
Then I get a little, I get a little panicky. I'm like, oh gosh, I think I do. I think that's probably, people have asked me so many times, like, how did this originate? Like, how did you start doing it? And I honestly don't know, but I'm starting to suspect that somebody must have commented on one of my videos that, hey, you know what? You kind of sound like her. And I think it might have just snowballed from there.
I got to ask you a question. I don't know if anybody else asks you this question, but I got to know something. We all want President Trump to get back in office, right? I think we can agree on that.
Yes.
But when that happens, you're going to lose Kamala. What are you going to do?
I know. You know what? I'm going to take one for the team. It's a sacrifice. I'm willing to. I'm willing to make that sacrifice. I will be okay when it's time to hang up my pearls and my blazer. I will be okay with that.
There you go.
It'll be a sad moment. Maybe I'll have some kind of ceremony. We'll make it very ceremonial and just retire the outfit.
The last video will be the death of Kamala Harris impersonations, and you have a funeral and everything. It's just
yes. Who knows what she'll end up doing though? Will she end up? I don't even know. Will she end up with her own show?
Well, she's talking like if she loses the presidency or the election, as it were, she'll segue right into running for governor for California.
Oh boy. Okay.
So
well,
so you may still have a life after this.
Yes, she will still. I suspect that no matter what she does, she'll continue to give us some fun material to work with. But I do need to start working on some other impersonations. I don't know who it's going to be. I take suggestions. So if somebody can think of somebody. It's got to be somebody with like kind of a, deeper voice. Like, because I think I have, kind of a deeper voice. So it's got to be. Well, it's got to be something I could do.
Well, Nancy Pelosi is not going anywhere. And she's
not.
They're gonna have to pry that office from her dead cold hands.
You are kidding. The crypt keeper is not going anywhere, I don't think. Yeah, she's sticking around. I can do her a little bit. It needs practice. It needs work, but I can do that one.
Yeah. Well, what if Kamala Harris changes teams and decides to support conservatives?
Listen, you know, the funny thing about her is if you look back on her track record, if you look back, you know, there is actually a bit of a conservative lean to some of the things that she did while she was, you know, so I mean, I don't think it's far-fetched that it's not going to happen. Let me rephrase that. It's not going to happen. We know it's not going to happen. But it is something I could see happening, you know, in the realm of
Right.
things that would make sense, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's just a strange bird, that one.
So I guess, you know, because it's going to be going on my channel, they're not going to know who you are. Well, maybe somebody
Right.
might. How'd you get into all this?
Oh boy. Yeah, you know what? I have this habit of jumping face first into everything that I do. And sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. And we can just ignore the times that it does. And I can ignore the times that it doesn't.
Except when
But
you publicly put them in videos. Now that you can't run away from that. The internet's forever.
I can't. Yeah, this is the most risky, dangerous thing I think that I've ever done. You know, I started off writing books. Like this was such a low key introvert. I'm an introvert. No one believes me when I say this. I am 100% an introvert. And you know, authorship, that's such an introverted thing to do. You know, you're in your isolation bubble, you write your books, you put them out there. At least that's how I viewed it. I'm like, well, I'm going to write some books because that's what I want to do now, you know, in my next incarnation. I was like 42 when I published my first book. And I just had this really silly mindset that I was going to publish books, put them on Amazon, and that was it. Just live this quiet life and they'll sell on Amazon. Well, you know, silly girl, that's not how it works. You have to actually put yourself out there and let people know that you've written a book. And so that was like the very, very beginning of putting myself out there, I guess, in the public eye. And even that was so low key. Then you flash forward a bit to the pandemic and lockdown and all those things. And I did the same thing that a lot of other bored, housebound adults did. And that's discover TikTok, this strange, silly world of TikTok. My dogs are barking.
Literally, not your shoes.
Yeah.
Okay, just want to know. I can't hear it.
You can't hear it?
No,
okay, good. So we can just cut out the part of me saying that. And
yeah, okay, sure.
Okay, perfect. I know it has like a little thing to muffle sounds, external sounds, but I never know how well it works. But all right, good, it works. So then pandemic comes around and I'm like all these other housebound, bored people in their homes. And I start scrolling through TikTok. And the first thing I say is, well, I'm not going to make any videos. I'm just going to look, I'm just going to watch. And that's it. Well, then I said, well, I'm just going to make this one silly little video just because it looks like it's fun. No dancing. I've never, ever, ever, you'll never find a dancing video. I don't do any of the little trends that they do. Nothing, none of that stuff.
I would do the Elaine Bennis thing and it would be on the internet forever. It would, I want to get all these different views and I want to get like millions of views. And it'll be the one where I'm just absolutely goofy and looking terrible. And that'll get 1 million views. And I'll go, why? Why does the universe do this to me?
Yeah, it's so true. And I'll tell you that is an absolute fact. There are videos that I have put out there, like just made it in like 2 minutes, just like, oh, this seems funny to me. Make the video, done. And those are the videos that do like absurdly well. And of course it's the ones where, you know, I look awful. You know, camera angle's all wrong. You're getting the double chin, like all of the things. And those are the ones that do well. I'm like, are you kidding me? The one where I had my hair done and just the right lighting, all of the things, like nobody cares about those.
Yeah. The sky parted and the perfect scenario fell down from heaven and 10 people watched it.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean that's kind of like the condensed yet somehow still long version of how I got here. I just started making videos and I started putting them out there, and then I started getting a little more adventurous with the type of content that I was making, and I started making skits and doing a lot of like slice of life stuff as a law enforcement spouse, and all comedy minded, you know, just kind of self-deprecating humor and things like that. And things have just escalated. Not escalated quickly.
You know, you're within 5 seconds of monologuing here, so I gotta stop you.
Thank you. Good job.
Whatever it takes.
Good save.
I you know, some people, they just take themselves way too seriously, And because I've got people that always say, Dave, if you would just do this or do that, and you keep using this phrase here or this phrase here, you need to be a little more professional. I've looked at him, I said, no, you're going to get me, I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm going to do it anyway, because that's just what I do. I was talking with somebody, we were live streaming. Okay. And I got a hair stuck in my mouth. And I said, we're not stopping. And I just pulled it out and we went on. So I'm like, this is what you get.
This is what you get. I think people appreciate that.
Yeah. I want to be authentic without being boorish. But it's like, this is what you get. I mean, I was talking to one person. I don't know how we got on. It was this interview. We were live streaming. And I said, if people knew what we do in these sets, I mean, we got these nice, crop 16:9 images here. And, and sometimes we get on here. I can tell you, I'll be honest here. I may not always be wearing dress slacks. I may not be. I get up late, and I just throw on a polo and I just say, nobody's going to see that I'm wearing my pajamas. But when I brought that up, she said, oh, I'll show you. And she took her leg up and showed her pajamas. And I was like, what the heck? What the heck is going on here?
That's so funny.
But I don't think people want to get a redraft and a rehashing of news on anything. Right. They want uniqueness. They want somebody who's doing it in a way that's different. Well, you've got your uniqueness. And I don't, but maybe I do, but there are certain phrases. Somebody actually bought me a t-shirt with one of the phrases I use all the time for a Christmas present. Because I always say when I'm getting off on some tangent and I say, but I digress. She got me a t-shirt that says, but I digress.
Oh, I love that. That means they're paying attention. That's good. They're watching and they're paying attention. So good on them for that. That's nice.
There you go. So one of the funniest videos you've done recently that I just loved and probably who cares about was when you were making fun of the Australian newscaster's version of Greta Thunberg, the blessed saint of climate, the Church of Climate Change.
Yes.
That was fantastic. I love that. What was it? What did she call her?
Yes. So she called her a miserable. What was it? A miserable doom goblin, right?
Yes, miserable doom goblin.
Yes.
And I want to make a t-shirt like that and send it to her.
Yes. That would be so awesome. She's so lovely. Not Greta. Rita is her name. I'm drawing a blank on her last name. It'll come to me at some random moment and I'll just blurt it bizarrely. But Rita is her name. And I had shared it on Twitter or X. And she actually reposted it. So I was like, oh, that's sweet. So but she's
going international.
I know. Look at that. Yeah, I love that woman. I think she's I love her delivery. I think she's got a great delivery. It's just very well, you saw the video. She's just very deadpan and she just looks right at the camera and she's like miserable little doom goblin. I was like, well, that was brilliant. That was brilliant.
What might happen though is you can say, hey, look, can you come on my show? And then you'll have to work out the time differences between Australia and wherever you're at. And I did an interview with somebody who was actually, I've done 2 interviews. One time they were in Philippines. And the other time they were in Hong Kong. They were missionaries.
Oh boy! And
so the Hong Kong one was interesting because for me it was 9 o'clock at night. For them it was 8 in the morning or something, whatever.
Wow.
So it was kind of good that I didn't have the the window open behind me showing me it was night. So who cares? but yeah, those time differences. I mean, just the time difference that we have, which is just an hour.
Mm-hmm.
I realized in my phone I had the reminder as 6 o'clock my time.
Oh, funny. Oh,
and then I changed it because I went, that's going to bite me if I don't change that.
I've done it many times. You would think I would learn my lesson by now. I've had guests miss the time because of the time difference and miss theirs, and I'm sitting there waiting, or vice versa. Whatever the case is, somebody's in there at the wrong time because we're basing it off of our time. Now I make sure I put EST after everything, every time I talk about times. But I have to admit, I did the same thing. I was sitting here at one point before we started and everything, and all of a sudden I went, oh, you know what, are we in the same time zone? I don't even know. And I went back and then I saw your message. Actually, I was like, oh, it's a good thing I had to check. It happens. It happens.
So Have you ever had one of those things where you schedule a time and then you realize that you forgot about it and it's like 10 minutes before and you have to just really hurry up and get ready?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And I don't know how it happens. I don't know about
Mhm.
you, but I have so many alerts that go off on my phone. I have no explanation for why that would even happen. But yes, I have done that. And it's literally, I'll be standing there talking to my husband and all this, and I'll go, I gotta go. I have an interview in 10 minutes. And I'm like throwing out,
Yeah.
and it's easier for you guys because you just, probably like slick your hair down or something. But we got to put on our makeup. We got to fix our hair. I mean, it's a big production for us to, so yeah, when
Mhm.
it's pretty nerve wracking when you, when you forget like that, if you're me.
10 minutes and you were ready?
Yes. I'm not saying I look good. I was just ready. That was it. I was
That's a
just ready.
trap.
That
I'm
was
not going to jump into that trap. That's a trap. I know. I recognize them. I've been married for over 30 years, and I recognize a trap. That was a
You
trap.
know a trap when you see one.
Yeah. Yes, entrapment, whatever the case. Well, we're not going to, I can guarantee you right now, we're not going to solve the world's problems in this interview. I can tell you right now, the way we're going, it's not going to happen.
It's
You know,
probably
we're
not going to happen. I mean, if y'all really want us to, we probably could. We probably could. I feel like it's pretty simple. It's very simple, but
sure.
why give all our secrets away, right?
Well, people that can, yeah. Do you know there are some videos that are online now that fascinate me? I don't know if you see them, but and I don't know why the algorithm is pushing them to me. But every so often, I'll see somebody who takes the body language of
Mm.
somebody and they break it down.
Oh, I've seen
It's
those.
fascinating,
It really is.
and I'm
Makes me
like,
very self-conscious. When I think about it, I'm like, is this person analyzing my body language? Because I'm really
yeah.
awkward.
I actually dated somebody who was going to school for psychology,
Hmm.
and I was nervous,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah,
was like,
rightly so.
was like,
Rightly so. And they're sitting, you're talking to them and they're like,
and
interesting.
then I asked them. They said, "Well, what kind of psychology? Pet psychology?" Okay, I'm good. I'm good now.
Oh, it's all good. All
Caesar
good then.
Milan, you guys can talk. I'm not going to do any of that stuff, so I'm good.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding. It is wild stuff though. You're right. I've seen those videos and it is fascinating. And I'm
Mhm.
always like, I'm gonna watch these and I'm gonna remember this stuff. So I'm gonna study people and and I don't remember any of it. I'm like, I don't know. Are they lying because they looked up to the left? Or what does that mean? I'm like, yeah, no, forget it. Forget
Well,
it.
there was a show on TV. Maybe you watched it. I don't know. It's called Lie to Me.
Mm.
Was on Fox or something for a couple years.
I never watch it, but yes, I've heard of it.
Oh, you got to watch it.
Good show.
I'm gonna give you enough things to waste your time on. You're never gonna be able to do another interview. But
I am
Lie to
looking
Me.
for a new show to watch, like something like a show
Okay,
to like
well.
binge watch. So maybe that'll be the one.
Well, it's fascinating because I mean, it really goes in. I had one of the pastors at the church that I go to when that was on. He looked at me. He said, "Man, that's saved me so much time in counseling." I was like, "Oh, great."
Oh boy. Oh wow. Okay,
That's
I'm and now I'm really curious.
okay. You,
It's not like I'm such a wimp. I am such a wimp. It's not like
yeah.
like suspenseful or anything like that, is it?
It's a cop show.
Okay. Okay.
It's a cop
All right.
show.
Okay. Yeah, I'm so wimpy. Like I can't, like my husband laughs at me because I usually watch, like when I watch shows, TV,
Mm,
it's almost always like light comedy or maybe documentaries or something that are very mild, like nature documentaries. Like no,
yeah.
I'm not a true crime girl. I don't watch any of that stuff. I don't want
Oh.
any of that in my brain. I'm like, I gotta protect my peace here.
That's different. My wife and I, we binge on crime shows.
Do you?
we are
I
we
can't.
are on our
It makes
we are.
me anxious.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, no,
You
no.
hate those?
I hate. They make me anxious. I can't. Like my blood
Oh.
pressure goes up. I told you I'm a wimp.
Well, this mind here, this
Mhm.
mind here is so analytical. I'm always trying. There was when we go to a movie together, my
Mhm.
wife, she makes me swear I will not reveal the ending
Oh, you're
because
that guy.
I'm that guy. I figure it out.
Oh.
We were watching a TV show and it was like in the first 15 minutes, so the first quarter of the show.
Mhm.
And they had this person in the shadows. They were holding them back. And I looked at her during a commercial break. This is when we weren't streaming. And I said, I know who it is. She went, no. So she handed me a Post-it note and said, write it down here, put it over here, and we'll see. And at the end of the show, turned it over. I was right.
Wow.
She-
Oh, that's
and
impressive.
but I do that all the time. And my daughter, I've trained her well
Mm-hmm.
because I worked. I work with cameras. And the church has a media ministry, and I would direct cameras, and I would help with this. I'd be on the cameras. I do all the jobs, and the shading and all that kind of stuff. And my daughter helped out a little bit. She'd shade or switch for sometimes, and but we would be watching a pre-recorded documentary. And we would be complaining about the camera shots. and we'd both look at each other and we go, man, that shot was shaded badly. Sports broadcasts are terrible because, they've got 32 screens and whatever.
Sure.
And they don't always get the shading right. And you always see that really quick adjustment. Or I was watching a live show, like I think it was American Idol, and the jib shot just quickly moved one to the other. Then they switched to another shot, and we both looked at each other and went, yeah, we know what that is.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, so that explains. Yeah. So, guys, before we hit the record button, essentially, we were talking about cameras, having multiple cameras, and I was saying that I'm lame. I've got my one camera, front facing, blah blah blah, and you were saying that you have all kinds of cameras. Now I'm understanding a little bit more of the background here. So now I got to turn the tables a little bit here and ask you some questions. Yeah, sure. So I need to know a little bit of your background. So how did you get into podcasting? I want to hear about your faith, your all of that, because that was like one of our little connectors there too. Of course.
Yeah, exactly.
So tell me first about the whole podcast thing. How did that come about?
Well, have you ever seen that cartoon where you've got several frames and it's all spiritual, and it's like walking along the beach and everything, and and they say when those two footprints there, that's when you walked beside me, and then you see the two footprints and it says that's when you carried me, and everybody's oh, and then the last one is, see those drag marks? That's where I had to pull you where I wanted you to go. That's me. That's me in podcasting. That's me, because I was teaching a Sunday school class, and somebody said, this is like 4 or 5 years ago, and they said, maybe you can live stream to Facebook your Sunday school class. And I said, oh, who does that? There's no way. That's so arrogant. I would never do that. 500 shows on YouTube later, I'm doing this. But what it was is I just didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it. And so I was like, that's so much work. I don't want to do that. Who cares what I think, kind of stuff. And then if I finished one of my Sunday school classes, somebody came up and said, I'm going to be your Zoom guy. And he said, I'm going to do it. And he's still with me. He's one of my engineers. And he said that, but I didn't see the vision and I had no clue. But then COVID hit. And then everybody had to stay home. So the guy in charge of Christian education came to me and said, we want to do Sunday schools on Saturday. That's what we want. So would you be willing to be one of those 3 people? I didn't know what Zoom was. It was a 4-letter word for all I care about. Sure. And so I said, sure, I'll do it. And so I just opened up my laptop, logged into Zoom, use the microphone that the laptop has, use the camera that the laptop had, and that's what I did. And I did that the commitment was 11 weeks. Well, that's where the name God's News in the News was being used. Now, I had taught that class in various places for a couple churches, so it's been around since the 90s. But I brought it back. I said, rather than teaching Sunday school class that I was teaching, I'm just going to do something that's more topical, God's News in the News, and I thought I'll do that. And I gave an 11-week commitment to it, and I did that. And now I'm close to 500 episodes in on that. So it kind of took on a life of its own, because what happens is people start saying, I really like that. Can you do this? Can you do this? And so I got a group of people that just always wanted more information. They were just sponges for information. And I said, well, I'll look at the news events of the day and I'll give you a biblical perspective on it. Gee, where'd that title come from? And that's where it started. That's exactly what happened to me. So I just kept doing it. And then somebody said, we don't get enough views on prophecy. Can you take say a Tuesday night and only do prophecy? So I was like, okay, I'll do that. And so it just kept evolving like that. And then I started streaming my Sunday school classes, even though I was in person. And it just kept growing. But see, more and more people were just like, man, I like this. I can't get enough of this. And I saw that there was a need for it. There was an itch to scratch. And so I did it. And then somebody said, hey, why don't you interview this person over here? I think, interviews? What are you talking about? You got to be crazy. You got to do all this stuff. And the guy said, no, I'll set it up for you.
Wow.
I don't know how do you follow prophecies at all?
Not really.
Okay,
so I'm in such a learning phase right now that I'm like going bit by bit, but that's on the horizon, certainly, to learn more.
Well,
I know where to go now too.
knock knock. Hey, Dave. I am now, because another thing, back in October, October 7th, obviously Israel was attacked.
Yes.
And then one of these people, they said, hey, look, why don't you do an update on Israel today? Okay, I'll do it. And then I prayed about it, and God said, I want you to do it every day. Sure.
Wow.
And I'm thinking 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, maybe a month, this thing is going to be over. Today, Israel at war, day 227. So I've become an expert on all things Israel and Bible and stuff like that. I've really dug in deep. So, and
wow. So do you go live? Do you go live every day?
Well, I broadcast. I do a live stream. I used to do it live, but 5 o'clock. Who in the world does that? Well, somebody who's been retired does that, and then your wife yells at you because she gets home at 5 o'clock, and I'm doing a thing, and then I do a Zoom class afterwards, and it's 6:30, and she hasn't even seen me.
Yeah,
and
no,
so
that's not going to work.
we had a meeting of the minds, and and I said, you know what? I think I'll start recording these things, and I'll stop doing the Zoom or the Google Meet afterwards. So. Nice. But yeah, I do it every day. And so
that's so great.
I mean,
and
right
it's
now,
so needed.
Yeah.
It's so needed. So many people, including myself, just really thirst for that information. So, I love, for all the negative things that we can say about social media platforms, all those things, and not be wrong. I mean, there's so much negative to say about it because there is so much negative. It's like things like this that are so good and so positive and just, seep right into so many people's lives. And to have that access like that is huge. That was how I started. That was, when I really decided that I was ready to just embrace my faith and explore it and understand it. That was where and how I started. I started online. I started looking up, sermons and things on YouTube, and it just kind of grew from there. So it's a huge resource.
Yeah. So, I mean, excuse me. I can tell you that's how I got, and it continues to grow. I don't know about you, but, it's almost like I want to do a video on the progress and the how the podcasting thing grows in people and how it goes. I know what it was, the different stages of a podcast. First you start off like this, and then you get this, and then you do this, and then you have to do this over here. I don't know where you're at, but I think there are like at least 3 stages of a podcaster. First, you start off thinking it's easy. Then you find out it's so much work you want to quit. Then you find out that maybe there's something to it, and you think, hey, maybe this is the delusion of grandeur phase. And then the third step is, maybe I can make money off of this. And then you think, oh, then I can stop working here, and I can just do this for all time. And then the 5th stage is, it ain't working. So you're going.
Yeah. Then you make the fatal mistake of thinking, do you wonder how many podcasts there actually are out there? Oh. And then you go, oh,
every sports personality has a podcast now.
Yes.
Everybody who's thinking about being, and it's like, I was seeing, because I'm into sports. I mean, I'm not like, I'm not, God and I had a conversation one time after I was spending hours praying that my sports team would win. He said, what are you doing? You're wasting time. But I'm not there. We backed off of that, but I'm still interested. And the NFL draft was coming on. Excuse me, got that frog. That was actually an impression of me having a frog in my throat.
Good impression.
Very realistic. But the NFL, draft is like incessant, and it was all over the place. And there were people who were doing podcasts on their particular teams and how the draft's going to go, and it was constant. And there were some people on there going, hey, let's get to 300 listeners, 300 subscribers on this, so we can do this. And I'm sitting there, and they're just, I can't say for sure, but I think they were doing it on the couch in their living room, but I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
I mean, the set was fantastic, right? The lighting was perfect. And then I realized I can't make headway in podcasting with everybody and their dog doing it now like we thought we could.
Right.
So getting back to that life of the podcaster, we're on stage 5 where you think you can make money and you can't. And then you realize, why am I doing this? And some people just quit. But, there are people like yourself and myself that we have a higher reason for doing it.
Yeah.
There's something that we're doing it because we know we're reaching people. You want to do a 60-second reel with a verse of the day. I've seen you've done that. You find a higher reason for it, and you realize that I'm not going to make money on this, but I still feel there's something worth doing here? And
Right.
so you pursue that. And so I've been at that stage for a while. I was at that stage where God said, I want you to do this. And then so I'm doing it, and then it's like I suddenly think, hey, maybe I can quit my job if we grow a little bit like this. And I had my son-in-law who is a whiz at accounting. And he said, well, according to my views of the algorithm and all this stuff, he's doing all this. I mean, he just dug in deep. He said, you're going to have at least 10,000 subscribers. And each video has to be viewed at least 2,000 times daily for you to quit your job.
Oh, boy.
And that was like a bucket of cold ice.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, ain't going to happen. So,
yeah.
And I'm sure you've had, matter of fact, I know you have because I've heard your video on it. I know you had a situation where, and maybe you can go ahead and tell your side of it,
Sure.
where I remember that you were thinking the same things. You were thinking, I think we can make this into a business.
Yeah. I tell you what, I have gone on such a roller coaster of thoughts, opinions, and feelings about this whole social media journey. And, and the only thing I think that I've come to some kind of conclusion about is that, I feel that these platforms, this ability to reach people is a blessing and a gift. And it's a gift from God. It's not by my doing. I don't think I'm any more talented than other people who have been trying to do the same thing, that I'm doing. And I've had, for being like totally doing this on my own, not, I'm not doing it on my own, but you know what I mean? Just being a one-woman show, essentially. I've built this organic platform, and for me, I have to sit here and think, well, why? Like, there has to be a purpose, and there has to be a reason, and it has to be something useful. And then I started my faith journey, and I realized, well, okay, so now I know the purpose and the reason, and now everything else just kind of falls away, because I was motivated by trying to make a living off of this, which is still an interest and an ability right now. I do make money off of the platforms, and that's wonderful, but I was getting too focused on that. And and I did come to that realization, like that's not where it's at. Do what you love and what serves the higher purpose, and everything else will just happen the way that's supposed to happen. I had moments where I was like, well, all these things like almost happen. I was having these things almost happen, like an agent reached out, and that looked like that was going to be something, and something else happened, and that looked like it was going to be something. And these things, and they just kind of like fizzled out. They just went away. And I had that moment of thinking, well, what's wrong with me? Like, is it because I'm aged out for all of this stuff, because I came in so late. Is it my delivery? Is it this? I started doing all these like things of focusing around, well, what's wrong? And it finally hit me that, maybe I'm being protected from these things that are not really in my best interest and not really good for me. So I'm at the point now where I'm just going to do it for as long as I love it, as long as I can use it as a means to serve God and to spread his word and share him with people. And, and if it affects one person, if it makes one person, either whatever the case is, whether it's faith-based or just simply making somebody laugh when they're just feeling really low and really garbage. So those are my favorite comments. When people jump in and say, I was having such a lousy day and you gave me my first laugh of the day. I'm like, oh, well, there's the lottery right there. Just won the lottery. Thank you.
There you go.
So perspective shifts for sure. And, making a living off it, I will take that all day long. I'll take that. Absolutely. But if that's not in the cards, it's going to serve whatever purpose it serves, and it's okay.
Well, I have a little blurb that I do in front of all my videos. I have the tagline, obviously, current events, biblical perspective. Early on, I take like a minute to say that. finally, I was like, I think I can shorten that down a little bit. But one current events, biblical perspective. I don't know. It's like behind. Oh, it's behind me. This is backward to me. I always point the wrong.
I know. I do the same thing. I get it.
It's like I'm doing the cross and thing, something like that. But I always say that we're not building your kingdom, my kingdom, and his kingdom. And that people think, why do you keep doing that? And I said, well, it's because I always want to remind myself what my purpose is. And I, God's meeting my needs. I'm retired and I've got a pension and I've got Social Security. And of course I've got prayers. And of course, if the other two don't work, then I've got God. boy, that's profound, isn't it?
Mhm.
But God's, I mean, well, all right. I mean, this is the moment where I'll try not to monologue on this, but it's a neat
You
story.
can. We're tight. This is important. So monologue if you must.
Okay, there you go. I've gotten my blank check. I'm going to write it. But there was a April 7th of last year. Well, before that, I was, because I'm I'm 66 now, so 65 was the magic year, and I knew that I was going to eventually take Medicare, and I'm going to get off my insurance at work, and then I was going to still work because I was going to work till 67 because I couldn't make it on whatever. And we've been through that. I mean, I've been through that at least. But God, in several different moments, he was like, you need to stop what you're doing. You need to quit work. You need to retire. And 3 times he did that. And then the 4th time it was like, okay, I got to do this. I have a little phrase that I always use that, with me, God has to hit me upside the head with a clue by 4 before I figure things out. I'm not one of those people who goes, oh, it worked. I see clearly what I'm supposed to do. I need to obey. That ain't me.
Little extra work there.
Not this guy here. I'm the guy that has to get knocked off the donkey and be blind for a while before I figure out what God wants me to do. And if I can be anything like the Apostle Paul on that, I am. I don't want to get in. I don't want the other stuff. I don't want to be shipwrecked 3 times. I don't want to get flogged and stoned to death. That stuff,
No,
that's somebody else.
Yes.
I'll
thank you.
Anyway, though, so the 4th time it was like I was talking to somebody from Social Security, and they said, and the guy out of the blue, because it had nothing to do with the conversation, he said, why aren't you retiring? And he sees all my financial information. He knows all the things I have, and he must have seen something that I didn't see. But at that moment, God said, you need to do this. And I think, well, okay, I think I'm getting the picture now. The other ones were kind of nice. I thought I could do it in a couple of years, but that was that seminal moment when God said, you got to do this. And when that happens, I get it. So I called work. I figured out when I could retire, and I could find got all those details. And then my wife came home, and I was so excited to tell her that God had told me I was supposed to retire. But I left out the biggest part. I didn't say God told me at that time. I just said, Tracy, I'm retiring. Oh, that was not good news.
Oh, boy.
Because she does the finances.
Oh, boy. Okay.
And I was like, oh, is the water on the pot on the stove right now? That's not for dinner. That's to pour on me, isn't it? And then after that, I went, oh, no. God told me to do it. Well, it was over.
That was that. So that we had a rough night, and then the next morning she woke up crying, and I was like, gosh, what have I done to myself? And she said, we can't do this. We can't make it on that. It's like, and I get that. Trust me, I get that. And I said, you know what? God told me to do it. I am certain of it, but let's find a way to see if we can make a little sense out of this. So went over to my son-in-law's house. He's whiz on finances, like I told you. These analyticals all get up. And he found out he's got the 65-inch flat screen. He puts this Excel spreadsheet on it and goes through all the magic of all that. We give him all the things. And he said, if you do this, this, and this on what Social Security has you, you will be fine. And it makes sense. And, we thought, peanut butter and jelly is going to be our friend for a while. Ramen noodles is going to be stocked in our basement. We figured it out. We thought that's what was going to happen. But God kept telling me, because I was thinking I was going to take a second job. And God said clearly, no, you're not. I'm telling you to do this. I want you to do this because I want you to put your efforts full time into podcasting and all that whole thing. I was like, okay, so I'll take a second job. We'll make it work. But then I went on a mission trip to Cincinnati. Had that already planned. It was so nice not have to ask off for vacation for work. That was nice. Yes.
And I went there, and while I'm there, we did a sightseeing trip. And I get a phone call from a job previous to the one I retired from. They said, we've got money for you. Well, I'll take phone calls like that.
Absolutely.
Trust me, I'll take phone calls like that. And I did. So I said, but I'm going to talk to you on Monday when I get back and I'm all done with those missions trip. I'll be done. So I came back, I called them, and they said, okay, so here's the dollar amount that we have for you. And it's a pension, and it's something where we got money for you. And by law, we have to get it to you. Okay, so send it to me. Well, that's fine. So I thought it was like a one-time amount. I didn't realize it was a pension, but I thought it was a one-time amount. And they said, well, you want it monthly, or do you want it yearly? And I said, well, that amount, 1 year, just send me the money in a check. I'll be fine. She said, no, you don't understand. You're getting this amount for the rest of your life, monthly. And between Social Security and that, I'm making more money now than when I was working.
Wow.
So I don't have the podcaster pressure of
Mhm.
finances. I don't have that.
That's so awesome.
And so if you are podcasting and God told you to do it, he
Mhm.
pays for what he plans, he protects for what he plans, and he promotes what he plans. And I'm done with the alliteration. You'll make
Love
it.
it. I love it. I love that story.
Mhm.
That was the most worthwhile monologuing ever. That was such a great.
I wasn't a villain.
Listen, I know I was over talking before, so I'm like, no, we gotta give this guy, we gotta give him a hot minute here to tell a story before you run your mouth, Elsa.
Yeah. And you do a
Oh,
wonderful
that is
job of it
so
too.
great.
Yeah.
I tell you what, I love hearing things like that because it just, well, first of all, I love hearing the way God works in people's lives. And I love hearing stories like that because it's just, first of all, it's just simply cool. It's just so cool. And it's a great message. Like if God's talking to you, if you know God's talking to you, you better shut up and listen. He knows, you don't know, he knows. And it's always, it's always things like that too, right? Where you're like, this cannot be right. Like you cannot be asking me to do this. And when you sit back and just trust that he's got this, he's got a
Mhm.
method and it's it's all for your good. So woo, it's wild. I love it.
Mhm. Yeah. And I don't get tired of telling that story because it's not about me, it's about God. So
Yeah.
even to this day, it's like I don't have to worry about that.
Mhm.
And I just know that, I mean, God's going to take care of my needs. It's all taken care of there.
Mhm.
I'm not worried about how I'm going to, get this done or that done. I just trust God. I mean, that's why, but, our marriage has been, I mean, you know how that goes. You always have those moments. I don't know, at least in our lives, you start off and you're not exactly rolling in the dough.
Right.
It's like, and you just kind of, you make your way through it. How am I going to have kids? How am I going to do that? And all that kind of stuff. And
Mhm.
you just make it, you just figure it out. Well, that's the same kind of faith I'm at right now. It's just
Mhm.
like, God's going to open the doors for me. He's going to bring people into my path that are going to be there for good. You talked about being a one woman show. Well, I know what that's like, except I know what it's like, not all the time, because I've never been a one man show in this whole thing. Never.
Mm.
I've had
Mhm.
benefactors. People give me, they offer this, they offer that. I've got I don't know how much you pay for StreamYard. I'm not going to ask you to say it, but I use Restream, and
Oh
it's
yeah.
you pay monthly or annually to get all those
Right.
bells and whistles. And the guy that said he was going to be my supporter for Zoom, I never paid for a prescription subscription. It's like drugs, right?
It's
Uh,
like, yeah.
I never paid for a subscription for Zoom or Restream because he's
Mhm.
always there. And I
That's
went,
so
and
great.
because I was talking to, I said, I'm on Restream. I'm kind of limited on this. I can't save this many videos. I can only do so much along this hour. All that, how that goes, those plans.
Mm.
And I said, I gotta do something more. And so I was talking about, I was talking to him, and I said, well, so, I should I do this? I mean, it's X amount of money more. I don't know if we want to go down that road, knowing that he was paying for it, and
Right.
gratefully so, he was happy to do it. And while I was discussing the thing, he walked over to me and just handed me his credit card. And I looked at him, I said, what are you doing? He said,
Mhm.
I don't think you understood. When I made that commitment, I was all in,
Wow.
and I'm not stopping. And I'm just like,
Mm.
who has that?
Right.
And then some people, they don't have engineers. I've got 2 engineers.
That's amazing.
And it's like, I've got people wanting, they're begging to help. I do something on Sunday, and I've got I do set up my cameras and everything. And so I've got the one guy doing the engineering. And then
Mhm.
before it was over with, like a month later, I've got 3 more people wanting to help. I'm like,
That's so cool.
what the heck? You know? It's so, I'm almost embarrassed to tell people how much God keeps providing for all that.
It's so awesome.
And
I
so,
love that.
yeah, and maybe this is just for people who lack the faith to do big things for God.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah. Right.
maybe this is what this thing is for. I mean, we call it winging it, but I think maybe there's something a little more spiritual going on here.
Oh, absolutely. And don't you just love that, the truth is that there's going to be that one person, hopefully more,
Mm-hmm.
but there's going to be at least that one person that's watching who's always wanted to do something like this, or, or not necessarily this, just anything that takes a leap of faith. And they've been holding themselves back for fear, so many different fears, right? I mean, fear of what other people are going to say, financial fear, all of the things. And it's like, well, guess what, guys, here's your sign. here's your sign. If it's something for good,
Yeah.
I don't want to encourage anybody to go rob a bank because
There's spiritual ramifications of that too.
Yes, there are. Yes, there are. So don't be deliberately misconstruing what we're saying here. But yeah, I mean, take that leap of faith. He's, he will provide. He'll guide and provide.
And it doesn't just have to be podcasting. I mean, obviously, if that's what you want to do. I had a phone call today from somebody that says, "Hey, look, I got a guy who wants to do podcasting. He sees yours. He thinks you're pretty good. He wants to talk about it." I'm like, I looked at my wife and I went, "Who are these people?" But see, that's the thing. God puts you in a position for a place. You're doing a spot on impression of a vice president. And that may not seem like God's calling you.
Right. Right.
And somebody may look at you like, is it really God's purpose in your life to mock a vice president?
Mm-hmm. And they've asked that. They have asked. Yeah.
And all right, let's just take a segue. What did you tell them?
Yeah. So so first of all, I actually had to take some time to reflect on it because I actually thought it was a really good question and a really fair question. Like, would God approve of this? And I had to really, so I had to stop and I had to think about my motives and what it was that I am making fun of, so there's like two distinctions here. One, I'm mimicking her, I'm literally imitating her, imitating her manner of speaking, her tone of voice, her gesturing, so there's the actual imitation. And then there's also the mockery. And, and I said, well, you know what? So here's the thing. I'm not mocking her as a woman. I'm not mocking her for her looks. I'm not mocking her for any of the things in her life that, she maybe can't control or something, physical appearances or whatever. What I'm mocking is her job performance or her lack thereof, her poor performance. And I'm calling attention to it to people who maybe haven't noticed. And now all of a sudden they're noticing. And because I've had people jump in the comments like, wait a minute, did she really say that? Is that even possible that the vice president of the United States made this statement? I'm like, verbatim. I'll tell you if it's something I'm making up and that she didn't say. And I'll tell you when it is something that she absolutely did say. And, and the funniest part is when people can't tell if it's something I just made up or if something she really said, because that's how believable it is that she'll say something absurd, so it did take some reflection. I'm honestly, I have to be perfectly honest, I'm still on the fence about it. I really am. I'm not sure. And I ask daily for guidance on that. Like if I'm wrong, if this is wrong, set me straight and give me the wisdom and the grace to actually listen to you and pay attention if you're telling me not to do this anymore. And, that's why I'm kind of like, I'm fine with it. You asked me early on, what happens if she moves on or when she moves on, let's project that, please.
Yes.
When she moves on from office,
there you go.
I'm fine with it. I'm good with it. It's, hopefully it's serving a purpose and keeping a spotlight on what I truly believe is a truly evil administration. I don't think that they're stupid. I don't think that she's, jury's out on that. I don't know if I think.
There you go.
I want to be truthful here.
Yeah.
Well, I'll let that go for the moment. But I mean, I want to call attention to what I think is evil, and and I think it's okay to mock evil. I think that's okay. I think he'd be all right with that.
Well, political satire is free speech as well. It's just some people think that you can't talk badly about your leaders. And I'm like, well, now that's not, I tell you, in the Bible, there are some people that have criticized their leaders. There's nothing wrong with that. Right. We wouldn't have a country if we didn't criticize our leaders. So,
right.
And they did more than criticize.
I'm sorry. Most of the people that put those comments on are also people, because I do a little stalking, are also people that, when you go look at their
you're just doing research.
It's just doing a little research. That's all it is.
Intense
A little research. Just researching, so I can give a rounded a response.
Now you're sounding now you're sounding like a vice president.
Right. But most of the time I'll see on their profile, it's like, orange man bad, so they're making it's not that I'm making fun of a leader, it's that I'm making fun of the person that they like.
You're pointing out the things that they need to pray for, but in a humorous way.
Yes, there you go.
See,
I
I'm
like that.
helping you. I'm helping you now. I'm counseling you.
I like that. That's good. I'll be using that. I'll credit you on that one.
Anything you want to do is that this Yahoo that does this GNITN, because you've made it when you use not your name but you abbreviate the letters, then you have arrived.
Yes.
So it's not just God's News, it's GNITN. So just throw that out.
Yes, I like
Now
that.
you think I'm joking on that, but I can tell you right now, when people want to know how to find the channel, I say, because I branded everything, I started branding everything GNITN.
Nice.
Just kind of, you do a search on GNITN and my last name, I'm all over the search results.
That's awesome. That was actually my next thing. I wanted you to tell everybody when they hear it on my platform where they can find you, all that good stuff.
You can find me usually if I've done something stupid, cowering in a corner right over there. No, that's not. I'm a rocket man. I'm under a rock. But no, just dave@davesisty.com is my email address. If you want to do davesisty.com, you found me.
Nice.
And all the different, and what I will do is well, I don't have to do this. I'll be doing it for you. I'll do all the places they can find you. But when you post this, you use all the links in my email there, and you put it in the description of the video. They'll find me. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm actually wanting to be found now. It's okay. So
I know.
Go ahead.
Do you see an end in sight for are you going to just keep doing this until you can't do it any longer, or do you?
I thought you were going to say, do you see an end in sight in this interview?
Oh, no, we're getting there. We're getting there, but there's so much more. We're going to have to definitely do more of these because there's so many more things.
No, we could talk for a long time. Just you get me rolling on prophecy or talking about Israel, I could go a long time. But
I would actually love to do that if we could do more of these. If I could steal you for a little. I know you're so busy with your stuff, but
are you kidding me? I'm retired. When people talk about when can we fit this interview, and I go, I'm retired. You tell me when, I'll make it work. But no, I'm happy that you're saying I have to fit this in. This is what I'm doing. It's part of my life.
Yeah.
So, but no, you can if you want all the different email addresses and stuff like that, but just my first and last name.com. That's my website.
I love it. That's so awesome.
It would be.
Oh my gosh, this was so fun. I mean, I feel like we've only scratched the surface. There's so many things that I want to ask you about. I think the next time we get together, I would like to full on interview you. What do we call this?
A conversive view, or an intervisation.
Oh my God. Conversive view.
That's the word you used.
Yes. There you go. Yeah.
You made it.
I did. Oh, that's so funny. Yes. I can do it on paper. I didn't think I could say it, but I did it. So I'm proud of myself.
There you go. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I want to do
that laugh. That was the laugh. That was the laugh right there. Forgetting what has happened in the past.
Forget the things.
I'm burdened by the future.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll play the guy. You know the thing.
You know the thing. And the place where you have the things, it's important to be unburdened by those things, right? Yeah, I mean, it kills. I hurt myself when I do it. I make my ears bleed a little bit. It was gross. I might cut that out. That was kind of gross.
I'll leave it in. I'm leaving it in. I don't care. It's honest.
I'll leave it in. I don't care.
I can tell you this much here. Okay. If you want to leave something for somebody, it's I think it was George Mueller. He's ran an orphanage in England. Amazing testimony. He said, if God's your partner, dream big. And that's what I think people need to understand. If there's nothing else you've heard, that's your takeaway. If God wants to do something, you better dream big, because if he's your partner, he's contributing a lot more than you are, and he wants to do something much bigger than you want.
Oh, I love that. There is literally no better way to have closed out this conversation, interview, conversive view than with that. So we're going to put all the links in for everybody to find Dave, and it'll be awesome. I'm going to be watching. I'll be binge watching. That'll be my new show that I'll be binge watching. So I can't wait.
Did my 502nd one on YouTube today, so you've got plenty to look at.
Oh, that's awesome! That is
I dealt with when it says in 2 Timothy 3 perilous times. I did an 8-week teaching on that, so maybe you can start there.
Yeah, I know. You know what? That's a good idea. I will start there. That's perfect.
Mhm.
I was going to actually email you offline and be like, where should I start? That's where I'm going to start. I love
There
it.
you go.
Thank you.
All right, there it is. So do you want to
Awesome.
pray? You want me to pray? What do you want to do?
You, sir.
Okay. Father,
ready.
we thank you for this time together. Elsa is such a wonderful host, and I thank you for her openness and wanting to do not only this, but Father, to be used of you and to continue to make, to get us the things we need to hear politically and spiritually, in maybe a humorous way, but it still makes the point. Thank you for what she's doing. I do consider it to be a ministry. It's not just a job. It's not entertainment. It is a ministry, and I pray that you will expand her opportunities more and more as the days go on. And I pray for those who are watching that they will realize that if they want to do podcasting, the water is warm. They need to jump in. All they need is their cell phone and an ability to log on, and they can start telling people what God's doing in their lives. And I would encourage anyone that's listening that that's what's on your heart. You've got something to say. We overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. I pray that you'll start putting your testimony out there. And we thank you for this. And we give all the glory to you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. And that was it, guys. Thank you so much. We'll see you in the next one.